I'm feeling better.
Good.
Yeah. Just a little breathing.
It'll be interesting to see what we do to oh my. Really? I didn't know it had that kind of product.
1980, 1900, and 1940. It was all through 1940. And then 1960, 1980, there was assassination attempt on Reagan business online.
You can start without me.
Yeah. So like,
Good evening, everybody. Slowly getting started as a few more people join us on Zoom. I know Mo is taking a call right now. We're just going to get started to be as respectful of your time as possible. And yeah, so we'll start as always with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now at the hour of our death. Our roll call question this week is: what would your campaign slogan? Wow, very apt for the discussion happening. What would your campaign slogan be if you were running for president? I know we have a few proxies. If it is your first time proxying, the name of the person you're proxying for will be read out, and you'll just say proxy. Here, I think my campaign slogan, there was a petition going around campus for a cheese club not too long ago. And I had the idea of a t-shirt with the phrase, "It's not easy and cheesy." And it has nothing to do with me, but I just think it would be fun.
Madeline Smith here. Slogan. I really like, I don't know if this is a slogan, but I really like my your class position of what the I first. Daniel Stiller. Dave Wood.
Here, and I feel like be positive with the logo to have like
Nolan Lyon.
Here and all in all the time.
Colin Harris. Christian Cole. Patrick Dowgan.
Here on Zoom, probably like dedicated to change or something to that effect.
Monica Barron. Bella Middleman.
I'm here. I have no idea. I guess what he said, something about change.
McLean Fro.
Here, and mine would have to be like, I don't know how I got here, because I think being president of the United States has to be the most stressful job ever.
Maddie Means. Roxy. Emma Eckstein. Isabel Karen,
Proxy.
Cooper Scholl,
Here on Zoom, definitely do not vote for me.
Reverse psychology.
Benjamin Earhart,
President, I'll go with the one I used in 8th grade. Student council, make the choice of smart vote Earhart.
Abraham Figueroa,
Here, I would hold true to the old Abe and run with honest Abe.
Madeline Kosabuki,
I'm here. I would also agree with Cooper. Do not vote for me.
Mary Griffin,
Here, I'm a class observer, so when you need to.
Haley Locke,
Along the lines of like, it always cracks me up when I think of Jeb Bush running for president, so just like Kaylee exclamation point, so.
Christian Yoder,
Here, I'll go with join the family.
Brian Kern,
I'm here. What's the question again? I'm sorry.
campaign slogan,
Campaign slogan, Scooty for Senate. Yeah, that's my only other thing.
Luke Blazer,
Here, I guess since my last name is Blazik, I'd probably do something like Blazik's for president, trailblazing the way.
Thanks.
Lizzie Martin, here, I honestly have no idea. Veronica Seven, here, I would say life is short and so am I. Elizabeth Gonzalez,
Here, I am absolutely no clue, but I really love the "We Can Do It" campaign, but some plan.
Michael Jafat, Zachary Cortez,
Here, I'll go with Keith Pat.
Will Kennedy,
Here, when I ran in high school, I almost used if there's a will, there's a way, but I was running against another guy named Will. Not just two people, but like against everyone. And so I instead I photoshopped my face on JFK and said presidents run the family.
John Bailey, Ava Downey, Mary DeVoe, here, and I have no idea, but I don't want to be president. James Brunette,
I am here on Zoom and my last name is Brunette, so I've always done the rhyme. You're set with Brunette.
Johnny DeLuca,
I second the life is short and so am I. So vote for me.
Paul Stoller,
Mine for sophomore class president was connected, committed, capable. So I thought I'd just read that.
Jacob Lowry,
You're on Zoom. Jake, endorsed by Mayor Pete.
Timothy Gallagher,
I do something like Paul, like do like a 3-word thing. I can't think of what those 3 words would be, but they'd be good.
Maddie Tupy,
My friends made me do "Don't be stupid, vote for Tupi" in high school. I hated it, but it works.
Thomas Davis,
Read my lips. No new
Alan Zilla,
I'll probably ask Matthew Besser to be my campaign vice president, and then
Aww.
people be kind. Yeah, that's what it is.
Madison Neiman,
Here, and like, for some reason, my thing that it's coming in my head is like, not about me.
Nina Sullivan,
Respect my third house.
Kate McLaughlin,
I'm here. I like, once again struggling with this roll call question, so just move on.
Caroline Cameron, Avery Webb,
Here, please.
David Hong,
Here, unfortunately, neither of my names rhyme with anything, so that's why I'm in the non-political branches.
Daniel Lau,
Here.
Bo Doyle,
Yes. Cool. So, great slogans, everybody. I don't know why I'm looking there. Minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes from our last meeting? that you'd like reported? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Moving into executive announcements, we got a few this week, but a few. Fuel is having and compiling, building on their predecessor's work to create a student leader mentorship directory. So basically, student leaders in the student union, leading clubs, leading other sort of initiatives on campus are encouraged to put their names on there so that the first years as part of Fuel can reach out to them as part of their mentorship program. So that form is on there, linked. If you have any trouble filling out that form or accessing that form, please let me know. But I highly encourage you to fill it out. It helps those fuelers with networking, getting good experienced leaders to mentor them as they continue on. So thank you all for filling that out. For the second announcement, I'm going to turn it over to Madison actually for an update on the Committee on the Constitution's work.
Yeah, so we've had a few projects in the work that kind of have like been on the back burner for a bit. So I just wanted to like update you guys on what we're doing. First, I'll start with the amendment to change the deadline for the sheriff president nomination. So we had discussions on it, and we are going to propose a spring date, so before May 1st. And so you guys will have the opportunity to vote on that. I can try to get it to you for next week.
Great.
And so something that we had kind of discussed but haven't really talked about in a while is off-campus reform. So, I mean, I don't know if like Thomas or anybody wants to like jump in on it to give like more details if anybody like kind of forgot. But basically, there are proposals to add like more representation for off-campus council in terms of sub and senate. And we kind of put on the back burner originally because we were looking at different proposals for Senate recomposition entirely, but that has instead gotten put on the back burner. And so moving forward, we think it would be most beneficial for the student body to kind of add a bit more representation for off-campus students. We can debate that when it comes. But oh yeah, another thing that we just got is establishing political counsel as an exec department, which I think you guys are seeing today. So we haven't really gotten too much on it, but we'll be working on that. And so I think we're still just waiting on talks and gathering information for the order to amend to establish an electoral code and make changes with what's the word, jurisdiction with respect to DULAC. David, does that cover it all? Yeah, all right, yeah, cool.
Thank you. Any questions on any of that? I know it's a ton of legislation that got sent over to ComCon like months ago, and so that's one of the main reasons I wanted a refresher today. Cool. Hearing none, I wanted to keep you all updated. First of all, our apparel order has been approved. So with any luck, we'll get those sweaters in like 2 weeks time. Yeah, so go apparel. Update on our vacancy announcement from last meeting and the order that you passed to suspend the Kavanaugh election. We're joined for the first time today by the new Kavanaugh Senator, Abby. So welcome to the Senate, Abby. All right, and then following up on our sort of extensive discussion of student concerns related to COVID, this afternoon we were lucky enough to have a meeting with Father Jerry to sort of follow up on that and really sort of grill him on sort of the questions and concerns that you all had. The tone of the COVID updates from the Division of Student Affairs honestly sound like a victory lap. The booster requirement and has been a big victory point for that office, and rightfully so. We're excited to have that immunity on campus, but Again, that does very little to answer all of the concerns that were brought up last meeting. Another big sort of positive trend that they pointed us towards is that this week, Monday and Tuesday, we had about 100 less positive cases among undergraduates than last week's Monday and Tuesday. When asked if the number of tests administered are comparable between those 2 days, we weren't given an answer. So we're following up with Dr. Junkins to get those crunchy numbers figured out. The third sort of victory point, I guess, was a low positivity rate among close contacts, about 20%. When asked about how that compared to last semester or any semester before, again, we got nothing. So we have some data points now. Problem now is clarifying and verifying. So we're still getting that meeting with Dr. Junkins on the books. As far as strategy, one of the big things I thought this meeting with Father Jerry would be best for, if not for like explicit numbers, would be to ask about like, we see in our daily lives something shifting, right? Just in the way that testing is being administered, in the way that COVID concerns are being treated. The phrase, and Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, that we heard today was shifting from pandemic to endemic, which I don't know what that means. And so we left that meeting sort of with a few action points for Father Jerry and his office, being that we came into this pandemic with perhaps an over communication of guidance, policies, principles, strategy, etc. But it meant that we had a good idea of what was going on at the university as students. This semester, especially, that communication and that like flow of information has been extremely stymied. And so going forward, if we are to shift our calculus and if we are to shift our strategy, I think we impressed upon him the need for greater communication. And so that's what I'm hoping to come out of Kate Morgan's office and the Division of Student Affairs in the near future. That's a lot of stuff. Alan, did I miss anything? No. Cool. Yeah. I'm sure I did. Somewhere in my notes. I'm sorry I don't have them right in front of me. They're in the next room. But are there any immediate questions that I can help answer or bring back and clarify? We are working. I know last week we talked about how some dorms can't sign up for the USPS free testing program because they don't exist in the online USPS system. We were sent to a few administrators to follow up on that and to see what we can do about getting this postal, your takes in the system fixed from our end. So. Cool. Alan, any updates or announcements? No. Okay. Cool. I think that's all I have for second announcement. Moving on, we have general orders. We didn't have, our new business from last week was moved up into general orders past, so we don't have general orders this week. So our new business, Ben Earhart, I believe, has written or co-authored a resolution calling for dual delivery of academic content in alignment with current university COVID-19 protocols. And so, Ben, if you want to, feel free to read or give a summary, introduce the legislation.
Can I do one better? And I'll introduce it first. So effectively what this is, it's in the title. It's a resolution calling for dual delivery of academic content alignment with current university COVID-19 protocols. So effectively addressing the issue that many students who go into quarantine, while we get shorter quarantines this year than last year, they do not have the accessibility to attend classes live via Zoom. Professors, the current policy from the provost office this semester and last semester is that professors are not allowed to be running a simultaneous live Zoom call. unless the student has an exception from the Center for Student Support and Care, which I went and checked to see if there was an accommodations list there. That webpage was completely blank. I have it linked in the resolution. So all this is doing is it's doing a few things. It's and there's the 3 resolve statements at the end, but essentially calls on the office of the provost to amend this policy to allow for live Zoom meetings. So many people are in quarantine and missing a few days of class. Well, even if it's just a few days, you can fall behind pretty quickly. And it also encourages faculty to continue to record lectures, send material to students in quarantine. Because while most professors are doing that, not all professors are doing that. It's not required for them to do that, it's only encouraged at this time. And then this is just tapping the faculty senate to consider this measure at their next meeting.
Okay.
I think Ben was about to do this. I'm a co-sponsor, so I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do this, but I would say, given the time sensitivity of the matter and like how many students are testing positive for COVID, I would either start to move it up to general orders, or I'm not allowed to because I'm a co-sponsor. I would suggest that somebody else consider doing that.
You're a voting member, you can make the motion.
Okay, can I motion to move this to general orders for today?
Second.
The motion to move to general orders has been seconded. All those in favor of moving the resolution to general orders, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Sorry, I have to be super keyed in on that one. It's because it has to be a unanimous vote. But seeing as it appears to be a unanimous vote, the resolution is moved to general orders. All right, there you go. We have the motion to move back into general orders. We've moved to. I don't see the point.
I mean, I feel like you guys just agreed that you're right now.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. So I'll say we're now in questioning on the resolution because we've had a summary.
To read it, there was never a motion.
Okay. And you're well within the right to review. Abraham,
I ask unanimous consent to dispense the reading of the resolution.
are there any objections?
Aye.
Okay. Hearing an objection, the reading is not dispensed. Ben, please read.
I'll go to a resolution calling for the dual delivery of academic content in alignment with the current university COVID-19 protocols. Whereas the student senate wishes to first reaffirm on behalf of the undergraduate student body its support for the efforts of university leadership and administrators to promote a holistic in-person educational experience amidst the continuing COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas the student senate wishes to voice its appreciation for faculty members who have accommodated their students' physical and mental health needs since the beginning of the pandemic, continue to accommodate those needs today. Whereas, according to the University of Notre Dame's COVID-19 protocols and policies contact tracing webpage, students who test positive for COVID-19 currently must enter university quarantine and isolation, Q9, protocols and isolate for a minimum of 5 days, regardless of vaccination status. Whereas, according to the same webpage, to depart from Q9 protocols, fully vaccinated students must be symptom-free, while non-fully vaccinated students must be both symptom-free and test negative for COVID-19. In either case, students who are symptomatic are likely to remain in Q&I for longer than 5 days. Whereas, according to the same webpage, students who are deemed close contacts are required to test for COVID-19 5 days after exposure in order to determine whether they too must enter into university Q&I protocol. Whereas, the Omicron variant of COVID-19 has spread across the United States over the past month, causing a surge in positive, albeit generally more mild cases. Whereas, a similar surge can be seen amidst the Notre Dame community, as the university's COVID-19 dashboard has reported a positivity rate of 14.6% and 20.9% during the weeks of January 9th and January 16th, respectively, which has led to a cumulative total of 354 undergraduate cases for the spring 2022 semester thus far. Whereas the combination of an Omicron surge, the university's contact tracing policy, the university's Q&I protocol will inevitably lead to many more students experiencing, at minimum, a 5-day isolation in the coming weeks, regardless of whether they show symptoms of illness due to to a COVID-19 infection. Whereas, given the excellent standard of academic rigor at the university, missing repeated days of live classroom instruction can be detrimental to a student's overall academic performance and well-being in a given semester. Whereas, anecdotal evidence suggests that a stressor for students currently engaged in university Q&I protocols is the inability to maintain pace with coursework due to the universal option to attend live classes remotely for the lack thereof. Whereas, in the letter titled Spring 2022 Guidance for Conducting Courses, Interim Provost Christine M. Mazier and Associate Provost Elliot Visconti stated the following points on the matter of dual delivery of academic course content. Point number one, as communicated at the beginning of the fall semester, instructors should not offer courses in dual mode, simultaneous live meeting in person and online. If students request permission to attend live classes remotely, instructors must refer them to the Center for Student Support and Care for review of their request. Point two, learning technologies are intended to enhance the in-person experience. Recording and sharing class materials when pedagogically appropriate when technology is available is encouraged. Providing learning materials in digital format is encouraged. Point three, instructors required to quarantine or isolate who are feeling sufficiently healthy to teach online may pivot their courses temporarily to remote instruction using Zoom for the period of their quarantine and isolation. Whereas, with regards to point one listed above, it is unclear what the procedure is for students to receive approval via the Center for Student Support and Care to attend classes remotely, as the center's COVID-19 accommodations webpage appears to have been deactivated. Whereas, with regards to point three listed above, it is the position of the Student Senate that if instructors who have been infected with COVID-19 are allowed to, quote, pivot their courses temporarily to remote instruction using Zoom while engaged in university Q&I protocols, then students also maintain the right to temporarily rely on Zoom, maintain pace with their courses while on Q&I. Whereas, it is the overarching position of the Student Senate that enabling dual mode delivery of classroom instruction ease burdens on faculty seeking to accommodate their students within the bounds of the constraining academic policies currently in effect and ease the stress of students currently in university Q&I protocols. Whereas, it is further the overarching position of the Student Senate that if students are being required to isolate for at least 5 days due to a positive COVID-19 test in accordance with mandatory university Q&I protocols, regardless of whether they have symptoms of illness resulting from COVID-19, then they should be allowed to maintain their academic workload by attending live classes remotely or receiving recorded academic content from their professors in a timely manner. Therefore, be it resolved, the Student Senate of the University of Notre Dame du Lac calls on the Office of the Provost to amend its policy with regard to dual mode delivery of classroom instruction to allow at faculty discretion the implementation of simultaneous live class meetings in person and online. And be it further resolved, the Student Senate echoes the sentiments outlined by Interim Provost Mazier and Associate Provost Visconti and encourages, when possible, all faculty to record and share class meetings and academic content with students faced with medically excusable absences, whether it be due to COVID-19 isolation or other illness. And be it further resolved, the Student Senate requests that the Faculty Senate of the University of Notre Dame du Lac and the Campus Life Council, in accordance with Article 3, Section 3F of the Constitution of the Undergraduate Student Body of the University of Notre Dame du Lac, consider the matters brought forth in this resolution at their next respective meetings due to the time sensitivity of this matter.
Any questions for any of the authors? Dave?
Yeah, so it is my understanding that the reason why they don't offer dual delivery is because of the fear of discrimination lawsuits. Have you talked to administration about the concerns of implementing such policies?
We've not yet had direct communications with administrators, although I do want to kick this to McLean because he does have a connection with one of the authors of that letter.
Yeah, Assistant Provost Visconti was a professor of mine last semester. So we are actually meeting with Benner planning on sending him an email with the accumulation of questions. That was one that we already had lined out, but we'll definitely continue it. Also, just in regards to that, we want to highlight that the resolution is calling for Zoom classes, but is also emphasizing the need for recordings and for the distribution of recordings. I have quite a few classes where recordings don't happen and they're not distributed. So while we look for ways to incorporate Zoom, if that's not an option, the value of the resolution is also in the distribution of the recordings, because it's important that the student in quarantine has access to all of his classes or her classes that they're missing.
Abraham?
If there is a legal issue with dual delivery on a general basis, wouldn't a more practical approach be to resolve the issue of the blank accommodations webpage in order for students who do need that assistance or accommodation to get that accommodation instead of just having a general dual delivery mode?
I do agree. That's actually a really good point. I think this is kind of I would surmise that the blank page is kind of in alignment with what the sentiments were received by Maddie and Alan today from Division of Student Affairs, and the university seems to be moving away from providing those accommodations readily. But I would agree, that is definitely probably one practical solution we can pursue here. The other concern that I did have with that, however, was the timeliness of it. Would they be able to receive approval within 5 days? It seemed unrealistic to me, given that you needed to be already know, or you needed to already have an association, like some sort of setup with Sarah B to then be eligible to go through that process. So it already seemed like it would just be ineffective in 5 days.
Yeah, going off what Ben said, the Center for Student Support here, as beneficial as it is not the fastest working system on campus, similar to Sarah B and the UCC. As much resources as they have, they're so overwhelmed, slightly understaffed. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone tried to get those accommodations, even if they already had everything set up with Sarah B, if it took longer than the 5-day quarantine, which is like the minimum, like how long you're supposed to stay there. So I just feel like it would be so much more efficient to be able to just log on to Zoom or have the recording sent to them. And also I feel like if administration is afraid that students will take advantage of it to just like not come to class in person, then there could easily be something set up where there's like a password that you have to ask for, or they send the link only to you and not like the whole class. I just feel like the way things are going, this is just the easiest option for everyone.
Would also just like to point out that like a lot of what we've been hearing from the university is that this semester is about living with COVID, like kind of like getting comfortable with the idea that it'll be around and performing academically in an environment where that's always kind of overhanging. And so an essential part of that, as the resolution points out and as Ben pointed out, is that like at Notre Dame, like missing 5 days of class is a big deal and can set you back the entire semester. So if we're really going to talk about living with COVID and studying with COVID, like students should have direct access to the classes that they're paying for and that they're going to get graded in for 5 days or for more if you're still symptomatic.
I was just gonna say, like, when they say living with COVID, does that mean in the future, like, having no quarantine at all? I mean, because like, 3 years from now, I don't think this is when, maybe that's what they mean, we're gonna go more towards that, like, when they say endemic, I think that's kind of what it is.
That's a question for the author.
I just a question.
Interesting, and that's kind of a.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Abraham, does
I was gonna say, yeah, if there's no more questions, like the last two have been statements, we should move to debate.
Are there any questions on people's mind?
Motion to move to debate.
Is there a second? All those in favor of ending questioning and moving to debate, please raise your hand. All opposed? Any abstention? We're now in debate on the resolution. Abraham.
Yeah, so again, it's my understanding that professors can't just provide the like a Zoom link to one student and not the rest of them because it leads to discrimination lawsuits. If that is the case, but we need to clarify that with administration first. I feel like that's really important in order for this resolution to be efficient. I don't want to see this resolution be passed and then have it kicked back to the Senate because it's not ironed out to begin with. So I would recommend that we table this resolution until we have all of that figured out. That way we can find the most efficient way to resolve the issues that are currently at hand.
Dan.
I'd say because of the time sensitivity of the matter, you want to just add friendly amendments right now so we can pass it this week. Because I feel like when the February 4th deadline comes around and some people will stop wearing masks, like they're going to go in and be like, oh, we don't have to offer people a chance to have Zoom links at classes. It's like they can come to class, but some people will still be in quarantine at that point. So like we still need to think about them and what they're missing when they're missing class.
Okay.
I just want to clarify before we go on with friendly amendments. Again, I'd emphasize the majority of this is making sure that at least the recordings are delivered. And then second, I'd emphasize the time sensitivity, something that been communicated to us is especially with that February 4th deadline coming up, that like, according to the university at this point, like people won't be wearing masks, and with Omicron, like regardless of the booster, like it's going to spread. And like, we don't want to wait and have more students, because we've had like 731 positive tests as a campus so far. We don't want to wait and have more students disadvantaged because they're not receiving at a minimum full recordings later that day over that Zoom issue, especially with the possibility, or with the fact that this would go to the faculty senate, where they would discuss those more pressing legal issues about Zoom.
Just as a quick note, like insofar as dual delivery is defined in the text of the resolution as simultaneously live and online, the title presupposes that in-person and like live Zoom option over the sort of recording and distributing that recording. So something to think about in just the text and the wording here.
Yeah, just to add to that, the reason why it's need to understand the legality aspect is because the entire first resolve depends on that answer. If it is, if we do have legal concerns that ideally we would completely do away with the first resolve and then ask for, or emphasize the point of like Panopto videos being uploaded to Sakai or to Canvas, and also, again, emphasizing the need to update the accommodations website or webpage for students to have that means to have that Zoom availability, which would be an additional result that's currently not in the resolution.
To explain the previous point about, if I'm paraphrasing correctly, but the main sentiment here is that it's the delivery of recorded, which is very, very, very different to Maddie's point. So if that is the aim, it seems like all the sentiments are aimed at staying up-to-date classwork that can be achieved with on-time delivery. I'll stop there, but if that's correct, I would motion to divide the three questions for further discussion.
Not that I directly oppose that, but I would say, I didn't mean to make that the emphasis. What I would say is that it's an important part. My only issue with, I think that dual mode is the ideal, right? Being able to zoom in if you're in quarantine, because that's real time and that's with your schedule. My issue with the solely getting recorded lectures is I know that it takes quite a long time to get the file up to Panopto. Like professors talk about it taking 2 or 3 hours. And I know I have 2 classes that are at 9 and 10 a.m. and the Panopto videos pop up at 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. So like that would still transform students' days that are in quarantine. It could lead to students like working uncomfortably late into the night, which is another form of disadvantage for kids that would be positive with COVID. But I don't know what Ben's thoughts are.
As a point of order, I think previous speaker has made the motion to divide the question. That motion requires a second. Anyone would like, just as out there, we can continue.
Second.
Second. Cool. Can be amended to not be created. Requires a majority. All those in favor of dividing the question, essentially voting on each resolve statement in turn, if I'm communicating.
Put an inquiry.
Yes.
So if you're to my earlier point, for example, emphasizing the need to update the accommodations website, that's currently not a resolve. Should we amend that first before moving to vote on each resolve, or should that be done after?
The motion to divide the question has been seconded, and so that takes precedence right now. We have to resolve that before we can make any amendments or any additional.
Right, so my point is, like, once divided, can you add it still a result, or would that be not possible in that instance? Or is it divide the question again?
It would add a fourth vote, regardless.
Okay.
It's my understanding that you can still amend the full resolution, insofar as it's another resolve statement. The question would still be divided.
Okay.
So the motion to divide the question, which means we'll vote on each of these three resolve statements in turn. Has been seconded. All those in favor of dividing the question, please raise your hand. 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed? Any abstentions? 1, 2. Cool. So by a vote of 8 to 10 to 2, I believe, the motion fails. And we'll hear the resolve statements together. We're back in debate. Cool. 8.
Yeah, to the authors, I would just say that, I mean, I would personally support a resolution that advocates for a more streamlined process for Panopto and to get those videos up faster and to update the webpage. But I just can't support a resolution that that advocates for the student senate and for the faculty senate to discuss dual delivery whenever we don't know the legal implications at this moment. I understand the time sensitivity of the matter, but I just think that it's more effective to divide the questions in order to get something done now instead of wasting time and then not being able to implement this resolution because of legal issues.
You bring up a point of legality, but what legal issues do you see come from this?
Yeah, so to my understanding, the reason why we don't offer dual delivery is because we cannot give specific students like Zoom links and not others. You have to either give everyone Zoom links or no one Zoom links, because that leads to discrimination lawsuits to the university.
David.
Note that the result statement doesn't call for special Zoom links for certain people. It calls for faculty to be allowed to offer dual delivery, which could be available to everyone. So there's nothing inconsistent about this result statement and legal process suggested. I'd also suggest that we don't know as much about the nature of the legal issues as we're supposing, because it seems strange that you'd be able to offer recordings to some people and not others, but not Zoom links to some and not others, that you'd be able to offer to certain faculty the ability to Zoom and not to other faculty, etc. So I think the public statement that the administration has referenced about the problem with dual delivery is that they don't want people to use it as an excuse not to go to class. So that's what we should be responding to, since that's the rationale we've been given. I think this resolution effectively responds to it. And I'd also note that the CLC, provided that the Student Senate voices its sentiment in favor of the notion of dual delivery, has a plan to meet with general counsel if possible to work out exactly what we can do within the bounds of the legal issues.
As a clarification, I do want to point out that in the minutes of the Senate meeting in which both Drs. Karen Gephardt and Junkins were with us, Dean pointed out that there was a legal issue around discrimination. I believe that's where Senator Figueroa is getting his legality concerns. But that's point, put words in mouth. Back in debate. Hey.
Yeah, so look, if the presupposition of the resolution is that we're going to offer dual delivery to all students, then I would point back to the student faculty summit that we had last year, where most of the professors were concerned that people would be abusing Zoom instead of going to in-person classes. So like, if that's the issue that we're debating, I mean, we also have to take the concern of those professors in mind and faculty in mind of how do we prevent students from abusing Zoom. We would have to have a mechanism where like the university is able to review like COVID claims to make sure that they're reasonable.
I'm understanding that the university receives an email every time a student is sent into Q&I. So if they went strictly based on that, then they're not relying solely on the students. But saying that they have it.
Okay.
Yeah, Avery, I get what you're saying, but like this resolution isn't about that. All we're saying to the university is that like we want students to have this opportunity to go to class like other students, because if they don't, then they get very behind, which I've heard many of my peers in Bomber definitely have felt that same sentiment. So I think this isn't about that at all. That could be on a different resolution coming in the coming weeks, but this isn't what that's about.
don't believe we've heard yet from Elizabeth.
I just wanted to second what Daniel said. I brought one of the women in Ryan here with you. She's Patrice Siriani. She's actually sent out a petition, totally individual, separate on her own, just judging how many people would be interested in having, I'm not sure, dual delivery, but more so just having the recording option so people don't get behind. And she's had a very strong response. And I think that we can't ignore the call from our peers in the student body at really asking and needing this dual method of learning. And I understand Abraham's legal concerns. And while those are very valid, I think the wording of this resolution aims towards just to give students the options to have access to the recording, and that's what we should be focusing on in this debate.
Avery?
Yeah, again, so if the point isn't, to go back to Daniel, if the point isn't the abuse of Zoom, then that means, that would imply that the Zoom is directed to certain students and not the general student body, which again would lead to legal concerns. So that's like my main issue with this resolution. As Senator Gonzalez just stated, there's a poll by an individual member seeing if people would be interested in like the video recordings. I said it earlier, I completely behind that. If we streamline the process of the Panopto videos to allow students to have access to the recordings and get caught up with classes, that's a completely fine mechanism that is already in place. We've just streamlined that process. Again, I'm completely behind that. But whenever it comes to this specific resolution, I just don't see how the first result is able to accommodate for either individual people, which again would lead to legal issues, or the general student body, which would lead to abuses of the Zoom issue.
For the authors of this bill, would the Zoom option be dispelled like when the university does like quantify it as endemic and does kind of get rid of the quarantine option? We'll still be able to Zoom if they feel sick for the teacher positive. Yeah, it's a question for the author.
Let me backpedal a second and get to the core point here. I think in the long term, what I've recognized, looking at the beginning of this academic year in the fall, when everybody got sick with anything but COVID, and you didn't have that option to go on Zoom. You were referred to the student faculty voice summits from last year, of which I attended one. And I do respect the legal concerns. I do respect the concern that students are going to abuse the privilege of having the option to go to a Zoom class. But the ultimate crux of the issue is asking ourselves, well, how to maintain student well-being. As the Student Senate, we have to represent student concern. And I think, this effectively represents what the one unifying concern is right now with the university's current COVID policy. And we've long learned that we can't really affect the health protocols inherently, but this is something that isn't really directly health related. It is related to Q&I, but it gets more so at the method by which students continue their work as students. And again, I want to stress, this is something I only picked up in recent days, is that faculty are allowed to continue their work as faculty using Zoom if they feel well enough. Students should feel they should have that option. The idea here is to kind of perpetuate this message of, realistically, students want to keep up with their work. It's unreal, there are going to be exceptions where students are going to want to abuse it, but in almost most cases, I would guarantee you that a student using a Zoom class is doing so for a valid cause, maintain well-being. I think what the big juxtaposition from the beginning of the semester was everybody getting sick and not getting to go on Zoom, was that we just totally dropped the ball on what was one of the biggest lessons we learned from COVID. And it's how to take care of yourself, and how to make time to take care of yourself, how to use technology to help take care of yourself. So I respect your legal concerns, Abraham. I respect the concerns of Thomas on dividing the question, but I do believe that what we're doing here is, most effectively addressing distinct issues under what I believe is a necessary umbrella of, this theme of promoting student well-being and voicing this is a clear, I don't want to get bogged down in a multi-week process of having to pass multiple resolutions. I want us to get this out there and say, here are how the students are feeling. And I've had conversations with a member of faculty senate and campus life council, and she has been adamant that there are faculty who agree with the sentiment. Now, whether the majority of faculty do, whether faculty senators do, that's to be seen. We're never going to know until we get something. We're never going to know until we get these issues in front of us. So this whole theme of time sensitivity keeps coming up, and that's why I was opposed to dividing the question, because I believe that the most effective option right now, even if we see potential roadblocks coming, there's always going to be roadblocks when you're trying to deal with adjusting a policy. So it's better to get out there and say something now as opposed to sit tight on this and wait and see. That is my position on this. That is why I have all three of these on here. If there is a concern with the wording in terms of the clear distinction between dual and not dual delivery, versus a Zoom meeting during class or a recorded lecture, I'm open to amending this to clarify that. However, and my co-authors can either agree with me or disagree with me, but it is my position that dividing the question would not be the best use.
I'd also just like to emphasize something David said earlier, which is that the SLC is planning on meeting with the general counsel, and also that this is going to the faculty senate. So like when Ben's part of time sensitivity, what we're doing here is like getting the ball rolling. And like when you reflect on last semester, like students with mono, students with the flu, students with strep, like which I had all three, didn't have Zoom options yet. didn't have Zoom options, but had to drag themselves to class and sit there. But at least they could do that. If you have COVID, you're put in a hotel room, and for a week of classes, you're stuck in that hotel room. And if you're not able to keep up, I think we can all imagine like how far behind we'd be for the classes going forward, and frankly, like how screwed you are for the semester. So that's like really the emphasis behind this bill.
So as a question for the Senate, since I can't ask questions to the authors, I understand the concern of students not being able to catch up with classes if they had absolutely no access to classroom recordings, right? So my question is, what's the significant impact between online class versus a few-hour gap while like professors upload the video to Panopto? Like, is that gap significant enough to even continue down the path of this legal concern, or could we just completely avoid that legal issue and just pass a streamlined process for the Panopto uploading and for the web accommodations webpage?
Because many very busy Notre Dame students have a schedule that they've designed to accommodate the class spots. I have class from 2 to 2:50, and if I have to alter that to push it back till 6, that's going to fuck up a lot of things. So I think at the end of the day, like the easiest situation is to have like the information given to me from that class when it's supposed to be given. Brian.
Yeah, in addition to that, participating live, asking live questions is another big thing. It's a lot harder to email after class. It's better to get live feedback. Also, it can be distracting when you're able to pause the video. Sure, that's a good thing, but also you can get distracted easily. You can go do something else. You might actually be inefficient with your time. And I think it's just better if students have more options.
David?
In short, many professors prefer it, many students prefer it, so discretion is better than lack of discretion.
I also want to add that for certain classes, like language classes, having that time to be able to discuss the classes and use that language you're learning is vital to the learning process.
This might just be because I don't really understand I understand like what the legal consequences could be, but if it's only for students who are being forced by the university to quarantine, I don't see how there could be I don't know. I just personally don't see how there could be a good case of discrimination if the university is the one forcing them to quarantine. As opposed to like if you're just sick, obviously you can't send it out to whoever you want for whatever reason, but these people don't have a choice.
I will say one thing that does like provide credence to people who want like a Zoom option. Like a lot of professors have shifted over to Zoom office hours. I mean, they don't necessarily have to be in person. Like I don't know, four of my professors only provide Zoom office hours, so it wouldn't be that different. I mean, just live option.
I'd like to request to move from debate to vote.
Is there a second? And all those in favor of ending debate and moving to votes? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. The motion passes. We are now in voting procedure. All those in favor of the passage of the resolution SS 212208, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The resolution passes. Moving back into new business, this is an order that Madison referenced earlier. It was actually drafted last semester, but just wanted to get it the official stamp on it and stuff like that. So SO 212216 essentially makes official a body which has existed for a few presidential election cycles, but which has continued through our administration from its previous sort of inception in the Rachel Engel administration. The political council under this amendment would basically serve as a sort of subsidiary committee of the Department on Community Engagement and Outreach, which deals with a lot of political engagement, civic engagement stuff. So that is already assigned to ComCon. Looking forward to their feedback on it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask myself or any of the co-authors on this, being the Director of Community Engagement and Outreach and the two chairs of that council as it's currently formulated. So, cool. Any other new business for the Senate that people would like to discuss?
I'm lucky to sit on I'm not sure what the name is, the Student Affairs Committee for Mental Health Task Force. Which in the next couple of weeks, I suppose, I'll be working or trying to work with the various associate provosts and student affairs to introduce in some way into class time some sort of mindfulness or some sort of introduction of not necessarily prayer mindfulness, a lot of apps. The committee is working on ways to introduce or increase more engagement with the Calm apps that we pay for every student. There's possibilities in the future if it becomes popular to either keep that or change it to different sources of non-denominational, perhaps Catholic apps that promote that, or some sort of meditation. The focus of this would be exposing students to it. A lot of students, we all know about the Calm app, but we kind of look at it or use it to look over how the university addresses mental health. It's a lot more than that, and students probably just don't take the time to try it. So actually introducing that into the classroom, whether tying that into the philosophy department or the Department of Theology. Everyone has to go through a route. Everyone has to go through foundations of Theo and Philo. So taking 15 minutes or 10 minutes out of class once a semester is an ask that we'd like to work with provosts to have professors give students that opportunity. It's been very beneficial in my anecdotal evidence. And also that task force, I have some posters and various things I'd like to bring back to your dorm about, this is probably the most depressing time here. I was just reflecting how the football season is about to end, like NFL, and like I'm just gonna have to watch hockey all day. But yeah, that's what I'll be working on. I'd love to get some more input, actually like do the work for the resolution through that. Hopefully we can just talk to the provost as a team and get it done. Or if we do need to have some sort of
Thank you. Any other business you would like to bring? Moving right on into announcements. Here, you have enough?
I do.
Great.
This week, Acoustic Cafe, of course, 8:30 Center, Target Family Cafe. Then next week, February 3rd, we can announce anything
Other announcements, events in the works? Yes.
Elections are in process. Don't endorse people if you're here. The debate will be Monday night at 8 p.m. in Midfield Commons and Duncan Student Center, and live streamed as well. We'll send out all that information. We've also sent you out a link to ask questions at the debate. As senators, I'm sure you all have a lot of issues that you're thinking about, and we'd love to hear if you or people in your halls have any questions to ask.
Thank you. Other announcements?
Maddie, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Perfect. All right. The Keenan review is coming up February 10th, 11th, and 12th. And this Tuesday, February 1st, if you don't have any good friends in Keenan, which for a lot of you, that might be the case, you need to get tickets, and tickets are being sold from 4 to 6 outside the fun on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Yes.
Next week is P-Dub's Queen Week, so get ready for a lot of crazy P-Dub people asking you random questions for the scavenger.
Any other? Oh, yes.
Muglin Casino Night is Friday night, so everyone should come to that if they can. It's in Danke.
Abraham?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? All opposed? Any abstentions? Cool. Have a good night, everybody.